Hello students, welcome to Study Hive, and today we are starting a new chapter, that is life processes. Life processes are essential activities performed by an organisms. The examples of life processes are metabolism, transportation, nutrition, respiration, excretion and reproduction. And today we are going to learn about the nutrition in organisms. Based on nutrition, the organisms can be classified into two types. Depending on the type of nutrition, organisms can be classified into two types. The first one is autotrophs and the second one is heterotrophs. Autotrophs are the organisms which will produce their own food. Examples are plants and algae. These autotrophs contains a special pigment called chlorophyll which helps them to absorb the sunlight, and using sunlight as a source of energy, they'll prepare their food. Heterotrophs are the organisms which depends on other organisms for their food. Example, fungi and animal. The heterotrophs can be further classified into three types: herbivore, carnivore and omnivore. You might have studied these during your when you were young, you would have studied them in your classes. Herbivores are the organisms which will eat only plants and plant products. Carnivore are the animals which depends on flesh of other animals. Omnivore depends on both plants and animals. So first we will start with the autotrophs, how they prepare their own food. So we are starting with autotrophic nutrition. So the autotrophs prepare their food using a process called photosynthesis. Let us read the definition of photosynthesis. The process through which plants prepares their food is called photosynthesis. This word photosynthesis can be split into two words, photo and synthesis. Photo is light, synthesis is preparation. So using light as a source of energy, plants prepares their food is called photosynthesis. In this reaction, carbon dioxide and water gets converted into carbohydrates. You can see the equation for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight, which is absorbed from chlorophyll, gets converted into carbohydrate, that is carbon and hydrogen containing molecule, that is glucose. So carbon dioxide and water gets converted into carbohydrate, glucose, or else we can also call any molecule which contains carbon and hydrogen can be called as carbohydrate. I have written here anything which contains both carbon and hydrogen can be called as carbohydrate. In case it may be glucose, fructose or anything. So carbon dioxide and water gets converted into carbohydrate, oxygen and water. So this whole step will not occur it is not a single step process. It occurs in different steps. So let us study the steps involved in the photosynthesis. First step is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. So what happens? The chlorophyll is a green color pigment present in all the green plants and algae. So what happens? This chlorophyll is present in the chloroplast. You can see the structure of chloroplast I have given for you. So there are coin-like structures which are called thylakoids, and it is a double membrane organelle. What are double membrane organelles? They have two membranes. See, here it is one and this is two. You can see all over they have two membranes. That's why we can say that they are double membrane. It is a double membranous organelle. So the coin-like structures are called thylakoids and the remaining space is called stroma. This thylakoid contains chlorophyll, which is a green color pigment. It helps to absorb the sunlight and convert it into chemical energy. The next step in the photosynthesis is conversion of light energy to chemical energy. The light energy was absorbed by the chlorophyll, which is present in the thylakoids of a chloroplast, and that energy is getting converted into chemical energy. So what happens? The splitting of the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. See, water molecule, you may see here, water molecules will split into oxygen and hydrogen. See, 4 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen is released. This is the process in which we get the oxygen for our respiration. All other organisms use this oxygen given by the plants during photosynthesis as for respiration. So what happens? Water molecules will split into 4 hydrogen ions, oxygen and electrons are released. So this is the second step in the photosynthesis. The third step is reduction of the carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Reduction of the carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. What is reduction, children? Adding of hydrogen can be called as reduction. So what happens here? Here the carbon dioxide is reduced. See, you may see here what is happening. Reduction I have written, and 12 molecules of hydrogens are added. So addition of hydrogen is called reduction. Gain of hydrogen is called what? Reduction. So carbon dioxide is added with hydrogen and gets converted into glucose. So what is happening to water? In the previous step you have seen that water has lost hydrogen. It has lost hydrogen and only oxygen is remaining. So what is this, children? Losing of hydrogen is called what? It is oxidation. So you may see here both oxidation and reduction is occurring simultaneously. So photosynthesis can also be called as redox reaction. You might have studied this in first chapter. If you have not watched my first chapter video, please go back and watch. I have given the link of that video in the description. Next, from where does the carbon dioxide comes? We have to understand this. For that I have given a beautiful diagram of stomata. So I have drawn the stomatal cell. See what is happening here. These two are called guard cells. This kidney shaped, bean shaped cells are called guard cells, and the remaining green color cells are called epidermal cells. So what happens? This is the pore. This is the pore through which the exchange of gases occurs, and also loss of water will be there through this pore. So what happens when the water moves from epidermal cells to this guard cell? It will bulge and the stomatal pore will open. When the water flows from guard cell to the epidermal cell, when there is a loss of water from guard cells and when the water flows to the epidermal cells, the stomatal pore will close. This is how the stomatal pore opening and closing can be shown with the help of diagrams. So whenever the plant requires carbon dioxide, stomatal pore will open, and whenever there is no requirement of exchange of any of the gases, the stomata will be closed. Actually, in the desert plants, they have adopted to a condition called xerophytic condition. What it is? Xerophytic condition. They are so called as xerophytes. What happens to the xerophytes? The pores will be always closed. In the xerophytes, what will happen? This condition exists all over the daytime. It will have like this condition in the stomatas. Why? Because they do not have enough water. So whenever the pore opens, there is also loss of water. So in desert plants, which are also called as xerophytes, the stomata will remain closed during the daytime and it will be open during only the night time. Students, till now we have studied the autotrophic nutrition. Now let us start with heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophs are organisms which cannot prepare their own food. Why they cannot prepare their food? Because they lack in the system of conversion of sunlight into energy. They cannot absorb the sunlight. Why? Because they don't have chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps in absorption of the sunlight. But the heterotrophs like me, you and other animals, we cannot absorb the sunlight. That's why we are heterotrophs. We cannot prepare our own food. That's why we depend on autotrophs. So heterotrophs are organisms which will not be able to prepare their own food. So in this group, we will see non-photosynthetic plants and animals. This heterotrophic mode of nutrition can be further classified into 3 types. Heterotrophic nutrition can be classified into 3 types. Holozoic, saprophytic and parasitic. In the Holozoic nutrition, what will happen? we will take the food inside. We will take the food inside and there occurs the internal digestion of the food. The food taken inside will be digested internally. Inside the body, all the foods get digested and energy is released inside the body itself. So these holozoic organisms can be further classified into herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. Herbivores will depend on plants and plant products, whereas carnivores will depend on animals and their flesh. Omnivores will depend on both plants and animals. The holozoic nutrition takes place in 5 steps. There are 5 steps for the holozoic. We are taking the example of amoeba and human beings. When we take the example of human beings, the digestion in the human beings occurs in 5 steps. What are those 5 steps? Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, excretion. So we will study one by one with each steps. The first example we are going to study in the holozoic type of nutrition is about the amoeba. What is amoeba, students? Amoeba is a single-celled organism. It does not have chlorophyll. It does not have chlorophyll. You can see the picture of amoeba. It cannot absorb the sunlight because it does not have the chlorophyll. That's why it is a heterotroph, and the mode of nutrition in the amoeba is holozoic type of nutrition. What is holozoic type of nutrition, children? The animals will take the food inside their body and the internal digestion occurs in these kind of organisms. That is called holozoic type of nutrition. So you may see that it has no shape. You cannot say it as circular, you cannot say it as conical, and any other shape you cannot say because it does not have the cell wall, only it has cell membrane. Cell membrane is very flexible and it will not give any shape to the amoeba. So it lacks in the cell wall. That's why it does not have a defined shape. So we are going to learn the nutrition in amoeba. So what happens? You can see the diagram here. Amoeba is there and the food particle is there. So what happens, as soon as the food particle reaches near to the amoeba, it starts to form a false leg. You may see here it starts to form a false leg, which is called as pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, pseudo. This word can be split into 2 words. Pseudo means false, podia means leg. And the pseudopodia, next what happens? Pseudopodia will project and it captures the food particle. So these are pseudopodia, are also called as false leg. They helps to catch the food particle. What is food particle here? Food particle may be any live smaller organism. Next, when it captures, it forms a food vacuole. When it captures, it forms a food vacuole. So in this vacuole, from inside the body of amoeba, all the enzymes which can digest this food particle will be secreted into this food vacuole. And the digestion of the food occurs. These enzymes which are released from the body of the amoeba will help to digest the food. And after digestion, you may see that after digestion, the proteins, vitamins and other nutrients will be absorbed by the amoeba which is there in the food vacuole. Afterwards, what are the wastes generated will be excreted. So the whole process you can see here. First, what happens when the food particle approaches, it forms the false legs or pseudopodia, and using the pseudopodia, the food particle will be captured. After that, food vacuole is formed and food gets digested in the vacuole. Afterwards, the nutrients will be absorbed by the amoeba and then the wastes will be excreted. Now let us learn the digestive system in the human beings. So when you think of human beings' digestive system, you can see the whole digestive system here. So first part you are going to see is the mouth. First part you are going to see is the mouth. So what happens in mouth? We can see that teeth and tongue will be present. So tongue is the muscular organism which helps in the proper mixing of the food with the saliva. So what happens with the help of saliva? Saliva contains salivary amylase. This salivary amylase helps to break the larger carbohydrates into smaller carbohydrates. What is the work or what is the function of the teeth? So before getting into the function, there are 4 types of teeth: incisors, canines, molars and premolars. Incisors helps to cut the food. Canines will help to tear the food. Molars and premolars can be said as grinding teeth, which will grind the food into paste. So canines are very prominent in carnivorous animals because it is very hard to tear the meat. That's why canines you can see in the like cow, lion and tiger, you may see that canines are very prominent. When we get into the next part, that is esophagus. Esophagus is a long pipe which is also called as food pipe. So what happens? Esophagus helps for the transportation of food from mouth to the stomach by the peristaltic movement. Next one is salivary gland. I have already said that salivary gland moistens the food and helps for the easy movement of the food from mouth to the stomach, and it also contains salivary amylase which helps in the breaking down of carbohydrates. Next part is stomach. Stomach has gastric glands on the walls of its. The gastric glands are present in the walls of the stomach, which will secrete the gastric juices, and gastric juices will help to break the food into its constituents. See, for example, pepsin is an enzyme released by the stomach, and this pepsin helps to break the protein into amino acids. What about hydrochloric acid? Hydrochloric acid is also released from the stomach, and it helps to kill the germs and other microbes which enter the body through the food. So what you may have a question in your mind that hydrochloric acid, does it burns the stomach? No, it cannot burn the stomach because stomach has a thick lining of mucus. The mucus forms a thick lining around the stomach which protects the stomach from hydrochloric acid. The next one is liver. Liver releases bile juices which makes the food alkaline. Alkaline means basic. So when the food comes from stomach and it enters to the area of small intestine, and the bile juice is released from the liver. So what happens? Bile juice will be released and it stores in the gallbladder. This is the gallbladder. Here the bile juices gets stored. So bile juices get stored. It has a duct here, and it will be the bile juice will be produced from the liver and it will be stored in the gallbladder, and it has a small duct or the small pipe through which it is released in this area. When the food comes from the stomach and enters this area, it will be acidic. Why it is acidic? Because stomach has released hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid makes the food acidic. So it has to be neutralized or it has to be made basic, because the bile salts which helps to break the larger food globules into small globules, and also bile juice acts only when the food is in the basic nature. That's why what happens, this bile juices makes the food alkaline. Next is small intestine. Small intestine, or we will study the pancreas first. Pancreas releases pancreatic juice which contains two important enzymes, trypsin, lipase. Trypsin digests the protein. It breaks the proteins into smaller particles called amino acid. So proteins are made up of what, children? They are made up of amino acids. Protein, long chain of protein into smaller amino acid. And lipase helps to digest the fat. Okay, next we will go for the small intestine. Small intestine can be said as the site of complete digestion. It receives the bile juice from the bile duct. Bile duct gives the bile juices, and also this pancreas gives the pancreatic juice. Here everything comes, and pancreas will release pancreatic juices which contains trypsin and lipase. Okay, and this bile salts makes the food alkaline. So when the lipase will act the lipase will be released from the pancreas. When it will act? When the food is only in basic nature, then only the lipase enzyme will work. That's why bile juices are released, which makes the food alkaline. Next, everything gets digested in the small intestine. Small intestine will digest everything, and the large intestine, the outside large intestine, what does it do? It helps to absorb the remaining water and salts from the food. And afterwards, the anus is this part which will help in the excretion. So the digestive system of human can be put into following steps. The first step is ingestion. In ingestion, we take in the food through mouth. In mouth, what happens? In mouth, the food gets broken into smaller bits, and then the next process will be digestion. In digestion, food gets broken into its constituent. For example, the protein gets converted into amino acid. Fat will get converted into fatty acids. Afterwards, the absorption, the food gets absorbed in the body. Afterwards, the absorbed particles gets converted into energy. So in the process of assimilation, we see that food gets converted into energy. So next one is excretion or egestion. In excretion, we see that the food waste will be thrown out of the body. So in ingestion, food is taken inside, and physically it is broken into smaller bits by teeth. So there are 4 types of teeth: incisors, canines, molars and premolars. They help to break the food into smaller particles. Next is through esophagus, the food moves inside, and there are so many enzymes acting on the food. Trypsin and pepsin. Trypsin and pepsin are 2 enzymes which will help in the digestion of the proteins. Trypsin and pepsin. These are the name of the 2 enzymes which will help in digestion of the proteins. So I have already told that amylase is the enzyme which is released along with the saliva, and it helps to break the carbohydrates into smaller simple sugars. Next one is fats. Fats gets converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So which enzymes helps in digesting of the fat? The name of the enzyme is lipase. Lipase helps to break the fats into fatty acids and glycerol. After breaking into smaller particles, these particles are absorbed from the small and large intestine. These small and large intestine helps in absorption. There are small foldings called villi. Villi are present in the small intestine. Why they looks like this? These helps to increase the surface area of absorption. So when after absorption, there is a process called assimilation. In assimilation, we can see that the absorbed food gets converted into a form of energy which is called ATP. ATP can be said as adenosine triphosphate. And the last process is excretion, in which the food wastes are removed from our body. Here the food wastes are removed from our body through anus. So this was all about the digestive or nutrition in organisms. What we have seen, nutrition in the plants and nutrition in the animals. So next class we will discuss the next life process. Till then, take care. Subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned. Thank you. Hello students, welcome to Study Hive. And today I am teaching you the next part of life process lesson, that is respiration. If I ask you a question, what is respiration? You would say that leaving out the carbon dioxide and taking in of oxygen is called respiration. No children, that is wrong. That is merely breathing. I have written here, exchange of gases is called breathing. Exchange of gases is called breathing. It is a physical process. It does not include any chemical reactions or any chemical changes. So there is a lot of difference between breathing and respiration. So children, what is respiration? Oxidation of the food and release of energy is called respiration. So in the previous class you have studied about the digestive system in the human. What happened in the digestive system? We have taken in a lot of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and etc. along with the food. That food has to be converted into energy. That is what happens in the respiration. In respiration, we see that whatever food we have taken in gets converted into energy. So there is chemical involvement of chemical changes in the respiration. So it is a chemical change, whereas breathing is a physical change. It is a physical process, whereas respiration is chemical change. So children, what is the definition of respiration? Respiration is oxidation of food and release of energy. The food is glucose. Oxidation of glucose and release of energy is called respiration. Based on the oxygen requirement, there are two types of respiration. One is aerobic and another one is anaerobic. So aerobic respiration is also called as oxygenic respiration because it requires the oxygen. Anaerobic is anoxygenic. It does not require any oxygen. So let us see where does the aerobic respiration occurs. Glucose molecule is broken down completely into carbon dioxide and water. See children, this is glucose in presence of air, or we can also say that in presence of oxygen, this glucose molecule gets converted into carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released. In which form energy is released, children? It is released in the form of ATPs. What is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. It is the energy currency in the living organisms. So how we exchange the energy? The biomolecules exchange the energy in the form of ATPs. So we can say that it is money of biomolecules inside the body. It acts like a money. ATPs acts like a money. So this occurs in presence of oxygen. This occurs only in presence of oxygen. That's why it is called as aerobic or oxygenic respiration. So next one is anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, glucose molecule is broken into ethanol, carbon dioxide, and energy is released. But the amount of energy when we compare to aerobic and anaerobic, in which energy will be more? The energy will be more in case of aerobic respiration when it compared to anaerobic respiration. See here, glucose is broken down into ethanol, carbon dioxide, and here also is energy released. But what are the products here? If you observe the products will be different. It is completely broken into carbon dioxide and water, but whereas it is broken into ethanol and carbon dioxide and energy is released. So where does it occurs? We will study in the next part. There are three pathways to break down the glucose. There are three different ways in which the glucose is broken down into different products. See the first pathway. First, what happens in all the organisms? This step is similar. See, glucose has, what is the formula for glucose? Glucose is C6H12 and O6. So how many carbons are there here? Here there are 6 carbons. So I have written here 6C, that is 6 carbons. In cytoplasm, what happens? It converts into 3 carbon molecule. That name of that molecule will be pyruvate. The name of the 3 carbon molecule which is glucose is converted into 3 carbon molecule. The name of that 3 carbon molecule is pyruvate, and some amount of energy is also released here. Afterwards, this pyruvate in the absence of oxygen gets converted into ethanol plus carbon dioxide, and some amount of energy is also released. So where does it occur? It occurs in the yeast, in the fermentation. During the fermentation, you see that yeast converts the glucose into ethanol. Alcohol is obtained in the absence of oxygen in the yeast. That is anaerobic respiration. And whenever you run very fast, what happens, children? Your muscles will catch. That time is the second condition. This is the second condition. Wherever in the muscle cell, whenever there is lack of supply of oxygen, the amount which is supplied to your muscle cells will not be enough to completely break down it into carbon dioxide and water. It is it is oxygen is supplied, oxygen is present, but it is not present in the abundant quantity. That in that case, what happens? This pyruvate gets converted into lactic acid, which is also 3-carbon molecule, whereas ethanol is 2-carbon molecule. So lactic acid is 3-carbon molecule, and also some amount of energy is released here. And the third pathway is in the absence of oxygen. Here it was completely absent, here it was present, but in the limited supply was there. Oxygen was supplied in a limited quantity. Next one is in presence of oxygen. Oxygen is present in abundant quantity. So when glucose gets converted into pyruvate, and again the pyruvate in presence of oxygen gets converted into carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released. I have written here it occurs in the yeast. The second one occurs in the muscle cells. But where does it occurs? We have studied that mitochondria is the place where it is also called as powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell. Why does it called as powerhouse? Because food is oxidized and energy is released in mitochondria. So this occurs in mitochondria of cells. Mitochondria of cells. So large amount of energy is released there in the form of ATPs. That's why mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell. So these notes will be given to you through Telegram channel. You please join the Telegram channel. I have given the link of the Telegram channel in the description box. I have given the notes with respect to anaerobic respiration in muscles with the limited supply of the oxygen, and also I have given the notes for aerobic respiration that occurs in mitochondria. Children, now let's study human respiratory system. Human respiratory system involves the following organs: nose, trachea, rings of cartilage, bronchi, bronchioles and ribs, and also the lungs. Whatever I have drawn here are lungs. So these are the organs that are involved in the respiratory system of human. So let us study one by one. The nose is the air pass where the air first enters is nose. So nose filters the air. There are fine hair-like structures which are present in your nose. They filters the air and it passes through trachea. And there are so many cartilages here. Cartilages are soft bony structures. They are not bones, but they are also made up of calcium carbonate. When we compare them with the bone, they are soft. So rings of cartilages holds this air passage. It does not allows it to fold. So this rings of cartilages gives the support to the air passage. So it cannot fold. If it folds, what happens? The air will be blocked here only. So it will not be reaching the lungs. That's why this rings of cartilages holds this passage in place. And next is there are two lungs. The lungs are protected by the ribs here. You can see the ribs here. They are protective in nature. They protect the lungs. So in the lungs you will see that they are further divided. This bronchi is further divided. This air passage divides into two bronchi, and these bronchi are further divided into many bronchioles. There are so many branches here. Each branches will again open up into a round sac-like balloony structures which are also called as alveolar sacs. Each one of them are called alveoli. Each one of them are called alveoli. This alveoli, what does they do? They increase the surface area for exchange of gases. So what is actually happening in lungs? So whatever the carbon dioxide is present in the body, it is given out. It is exhaled through nose. And whatever oxygen we are taking, it has to reach to the alveoli. There are so many network of blood vessels here. These blood vessels will take the oxygen and will supply to whole body. So that is what happening in the human respiratory system. Let us understand what happens to diaphragm. You can see here a brownish structure called diaphragm. Diaphragm is facilitating for the exchange of gases. Let us see how it changes when we inhale and when we exhale. When we inhale, inhaling means taking in the air. When we take in the air, this contracts and it will move from here to here. You may see here, it will contract and diaphragm will contract. It will be stretched down and air will enter to the lungs. This is called inhalation. Inhalation is taking in the air. So what happens when we inhale? The air moves in. When the air moves in, this diaphragm has to move down. It has to move down to make larger area here. And when we exhale, that is leaving out the air, it moves, it contracts, it relaxes and air is passed out. When we inhale, it gets contracted. In case of exhalation, it relaxes. I'll write here, it contracts. The diaphragm contracts and here it relaxes. It relaxes and it comes to its place. It is relaxed now, but it is stretched here. It is contracted in case of inhalation. It relaxes when we exhale. When we leave out, that is called exhale or exhalation. When we exhale, the diaphragm relaxes. When we inhale, it contracts. So this was end of respiratory system. In the next class, we will study about excretory system. And till then, take care, subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. Thank you. Hello students, welcome to Study Hive, and today we are going to learn about transportation system. In the digestive system, we have studied that whatever the food we consume is broken into its constituents, and that food gets oxidized and it releases energy in the respiratory system. To supply energy to all the body, it has to be oxidized. So supply of oxygen is very, very important. It is done by transportation system. So transportation system supplies the oxygen to all the parts of the body to oxidize the food and to release the energy. So how does the oxygen supplies? We are going to study in this chapter. So first let us see what are the components of the human transportation system. The first one is blood vessels. There are two types of blood vessels. One is arteries and another one is veins. Arteries are the vessels which carries only the oxygenated blood. Only the oxygenated or the blood which is rich in oxygen is carried by arteries. And veins are the blood vessels which will carry only the deoxygenated or carbon dioxide rich blood in the body. And there are also two pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins which will do exactly opposite work of the arteries. This pulmonary artery will do exactly opposite work of the arteries. It supplies deoxygenated blood to lungs from heart. It carries deoxygenated blood, whereas arteries will carry only oxygenated blood. So this is the only artery which is doing opposite work. And what is pulmonary vein? Pulmonary vein supplies oxygen rich blood to heart from lungs. It carries oxygen rich blood from lungs to heart. The next component of transportation system is blood. Blood is a fluid that carries oxygen. So hemoglobin is a complex which helps to hold the oxygen. Hemoglobin is the component which helps to hold the oxygen. What does the hemoglobin contain? Hemoglobin contain iron as the center element. Like this, it is a complex of iron wherein it holds oxygen in one side, and this hemoglobin helps to carry the oxygen. The hemoglobin also gives the red color to the blood. And also blood is consisting of a fluid substance known as plasma, and all the blood cells are suspended in the plasma. Blood is a fluid because of only presence of plasma. Blood cells are suspended in the plasma. Next, when we get injured, it is very important to stop the bleeding. So blood contains some platelets and proteins which helps to coagulate, which helps to stop the bleeding. Blood also contains what all the things blood contains? Blood contains plasma, blood hemoglobin, and also blood cells, and also some proteins which helps to coagulate the bleeding. So next component of transportation system is heart. Heart is a muscular organ which is the size of your fist, and it helps to pump the blood to different organs in the body. It helps to pump the blood to the different organs of the body. Next one is lymph. Lymph is a colorless fluid like blood, but blood is red color because of presence of only the hemoglobin. It contains less protein when compared to blood. Blood contains more protein, but lymph contains less protein when compared to plasma. Lymph carries absorbed and digested fat. It only carries digested fat. Next, let us study transportation in human. So, the heart plays an important role and central role in the transportation system in the human beings. So, let us see what are the parts of the heart. See, there are 4 compartments in the human heart. One is right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. See, if you see, there are 2 veins here. One is which carries the blood from always the veins will carry the deoxygenated blood from other parts of the body to the heart. See, it is blue color. So this one carries the blood from the upper part of the body. That is why it is called as superior vena cava. And the vena cava which carries blood from the downside of the body, from the organs which are below the heart, that is called inferior vena cava. And you can see pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. So I have given blue color to the pulmonary artery. Why? Because this carries deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. It carries deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. But the arteries always carries the oxygen rich blood, but this pulmonary artery is only doing the opposite kind of work. It carries deoxygenated blood from heart to the lungs. And pulmonary vein is connected to the lungs. This pulmonary artery is also connected to lungs. It carries the deoxygenated blood from heart to the lungs. And pulmonary veins will always carry deoxygenated blood, but pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from lungs to the heart. See, it is bringing oxygenated blood from lungs to the heart. It pours the oxygenated blood to the left atrium. So first understand how does this transportation or how does the pumping works. See, first we will start with the vena cavas. The superior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper parts of the body, and it will pour it into right atrium. And from the downside of the body, below the heart, whatever the parts are there, from there inferior vena cava brings all the blood and it will bring it into the right atrium. So everything will first enter into right atrium. So then it will be pushed into right ventricle. From right ventricle, what happens? The connection is to the pulmonary arteries. The pulmonary arteries will directly be connected to the lungs. Here there will be lungs. I'll write it for you here. The lungs will be there. The pulmonary arteries will go to the lungs, and lungs will exchange the lungs will take the carbon dioxide and give the oxygen. Lungs will take the carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide will be exhaled through nose, and oxygen will be given to the blood, and that oxygenated rich blood will come through pulmonary vein. From lungs, the pulmonary veins will receive the oxygenated rich blood, and everything will enter first into left atrium. It will first come to left atrium. From left atrium, it will be pushed towards left ventricle, and again through aorta. Through aorta, it will be distributed to all the parts of the body. So the aorta distributes the oxygenated blood to all the parts of the body through which vessels? Through arteries. Through arteries, the oxygenated rich blood will be carried to all the parts of the blood. So I'm going to explain it once again for you. From the upper part of the body, all the deoxygenated blood will enter the right atrium through which one? The superior vena cava. And from the below the heart, the lower part of the body, the deoxygenated blood will be entering through inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava I have written here, from lower body, from upper body. So everything will first enter into right atrium. From right atrium, it will enter through right ventricle. So to avoid the going back of the blood from ventricles to the atrium, what it is, there are walls here. It will be closed. When the blood enters from here to here, it will be closed. There are few walls present here. Walls will be closing when the blood enters from here to here. From right ventricle, where does the blood go? Through pulmonary, through pulmonary arteries, it will go to the lungs. It will go to the lungs. It will go to the lungs, and lungs will give the oxygen to the blood and take the carbon dioxide. And afterwards, the oxygen rich blood enters through the pulmonary vein and it comes to the left atrium. After coming it to the left atrium, it will be pushed to left ventricle, and left ventricle is directly connected to what, children? It is connected to aorta, and through aorta, through veins, through arteries, aorta further divides into arteries, and the oxygenated blood supplies to all the parts of the body. When the oxygen reaches to all the parts of the body, the food will be oxidized and energy will be released. The whole notes will be given to you. This notes in the written form, it will be given to you through our Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel will be given in the description box, and you have to subscribe to the channel to get these notes. And there is also transportation system present in the plants. They have to translocate or transport the water which is required for the photosynthesis. The minerals which are required for the photosynthesis have to be carried from the roots to the leaves where the food is synthesized. So plants have a special tissues to transport the water and minerals and food. So xylem transports the water and minerals. Phloem transports the prepared food, that will be in the form of sucrose, carbohydrates, amino acids, that are proteins. So carbohydrates and proteins are transported by the phloem. This is called plant food. And water and minerals will be transported by xylem tissues. These are two tissues specialized for which purpose? The transportation purpose. The transportation in the plants will be carried out by two types of tissues, xylem and phloem. Xylem carries the water and minerals, whereas phloem carries the food. Food, which are the two types of food in the plants? Sucrose, which is a carbohydrate, amino acids are proteins. So this was end of the transportation system. Next class I'll teach you excretory system. Please subscribe to the channel, share with your friends. Stay tuned.
Hello students, welcome to Study Hive, and today we are going to discuss about excretion. Excretion is a process in which the harmful substances which are created through metabolic activities have to be removed from the body. That process is called excretion. We have seen that carbon dioxide was one of the waste which was removed through respiratory system. So the carbon dioxide is also called as respiratory waste. And different organisms have different methods of excretion. Some unicellular organisms have simple mode like diffusion. They diffuse the material waste things from their body. But more evolved organisms like insects, earthworms, like frog, human, everything have different separate organ for the excretion. In the earthworm we see nephridia is the excretory organ. In the insects, Malpighian tubule. In the frogs, moist skin. And also In human, we have kidneys. And we are going to focus only on human excretory system. Human excretory system consists of, you can see the diagram here. Human excretory system, you can see the diagram here. It consists of a pair of kidneys. Here, a pair of kidneys and urinary bladder, ureter, urethra, and these are the things involved in the human excretory system. And the kidney have the filtration units called nephrons. Nephrons are the filtration systems we have in the kidneys. What does the nephrons do? Nephrons filters out the wastes from our blood. Nephrons filters the wastes from our blood. See, this is the structure of nephron. Nephron has a cup-like structure called Bowman's capsule and glomerulus, and there are fine renal arteries. There are many arteries which carries the pure blood from filtered blood from the kidneys to other part of the body. We have also the renal vein which has carried the impure blood which has metabolic wastes. They will be exchanged and everything gets collected in the collecting duct. So what happens in the nephron? Why we call nephron as a filtering unit? So whatever the blood is brought from the capillaries which contains metabolic wastes, it will be taken up by these nephrons. See, you can see intricating branching veins here. So these veins contains impure blood. So what does this tube do? This has selectively permeable membrane. It selects the waste. It selects the waste from the blood and it collects here. So that is what we call as urine. And other pure blood will be collected here and it is supplied to all the parts of the body through renal arteries. Arteries will always carry the pure blood, whereas the veins will carry the impure blood. And all the urine which is collected in the duct will go to the urinary bladder. It will get collected in the urinary bladder here. When the urinary bladder is filled, there is a pressure increased in this area, and we will have the urge to urinate or excrete the urine from our body. This is all about the excretion, and in the next part we are going to start a new chapter called control and coordination. Thank you.
Welcome back, students. In this video, we will learn about excretion in the plants. Unlike animals, plants will not have specific excretory organ. They excrete through stomata and hydathodes and also other pores. So let us see what are the excretory materials are generated in the plants. Oxygen itself is considered as waste in the plants. Oxygen is produced in the process of photosynthesis. So oxygen itself is a waste in plants. So it is excreted through pores called stomatal openings. And excess of the water, whichever is produced or whichever is absorbed by the roots, it will be transpired through the stomata. Transpiration is the process of loss of water through stomata. I have given here. Transpiration is the process of loss of water through stomata. The same way, excess of the water is also excreted through a process called guttation. Guttation involves hydathodes. The loss of water through hydathodes is called guttation, and loss of water through stomata is called transpiration. There is a difference between guttation and the transpiration. Let us understand what is guttation. In the early morning, when you will step on the grass, you will see that there is a lot of water present on the grass. That is through guttation. The bigger molecules of water are accumulated on the pores called as hydathodes. Hydathodes are the pores. You may see the structure of hydathodes here. So this is a plant body, and hydathodes are the pores here where the water comes and accumulates. They may be present on the leaves also. Transpiration occurs through stomata and guttation occurs through hydathodes. And other wastes metabolic wastes are released as gums and resins. These gums and resins are collected and they are known to have so many medicinal properties and they are used as a food. So this was end of excretory system in the plants. Thank you.